Ladies and gentlemen, we have a jaw-dropping revelation that the former soon-to-be mayor of LA, Karen dumbass, has found herself at the center of a scandal. And you're never going to guess who it involves. But first, we need to talk about the latest from President Donald Trump, also tied to some of the activities we've seen in Los Angeles and this most shocking revelation from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Stay tuned, folks. And if you are interested in saving money, specifically on your Medicare, then make sure you give our friends at Chapter a call. And I want you guys to really, really pay attention here, because it's come to my attention that most seniors are not on the best Medicare plan. They're either overpaying for the same coverage they could get elsewhere, or they don't have the coverage they need in an emergency. Chapter can review your options in under 20 minutes. It's fast, it's simple, it's easy, and it's free. If you're already on the best possible plan, they'll tell you they're unbiased and they're purely here to help folks, seniors, save money on healthcare, on average $1,100. And if you're not on the right plan, they'll help you switch, even if it's to a plan that pays them nothing. Again, unbiased, folks. This is unique and unlike any other Medicare provider out there. And this is exactly why we love Chapter so much, because they're literally just trying to help people. Chapter works for you, not big insurance or the government. And there's no pressure, just honest, free advice from professionals who know Medicare inside and out.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, the ultra-leftist who sides with illegal migrants over citizens, has just been exposed in a bombshell investigation by the Daily Caller. According to their investigation, Mayor Bass took campaign donations totaling over $1 million from two Chinese Communist Party-linked bankers, both connected to what's called the United Front Work Department, China's primary intelligence and influence operation. But here's the kicker. Immediately after taking their money, Bass appointed them to her mayoral transition advisory team, the very group tasked with guiding policy and staffing decisions for her entire administration.
Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow patriots and proud MAGA supporters, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I want to share and talk to you straight from the heart about a crisis unfolding right here in our great nation. And it's not even what went down in Minneapolis. In the once vibrant city of Los Angeles, it's a story of betrayal, incompetence, and dangerous alliances that threaten everything we hold dear: law and order, American sovereignty, and the safety of our communities. And at the center of it all is Mayor Karen Bass, a leader who has failed her city in ways that are impossible to ignore. And let's talk about it. Let's walk through this all together, step by step, and ask a few questions along the way that I think we all know the answers to. First, think about the state of Los Angeles under Karen Bass's watch, Gavin Newsom aside. Has she protected the hardworking Angelenos who built that city? Or has she let them down time and time again? We've seen skyrocketing homelessness with tents lining the streets and families struggling just to feel safe. Crime rates that make you think twice about walking downtown. And there's even an app that'll show you where the poop is on the streets. And then there are the budget disasters. Yes, money laundering. Deep cuts to essential services like fire departments and police, which, yeah, we all know how disastrous that ended up being. All while handing out fat contracts to government workers that plunged the city into a massive deficit. And who pays the price for that? The taxpayers, of course, the families, the everyday Americans trying to make ends meet. Isn't it clear that Karen Bass's priorities are all wrong? Their priorities are obviously for not the people of Los Angeles, especially if you just want to look at what's going on with the burned properties and residents along the coastline and the Palisades. But it gets worse, much worse. Because remember those devastating wildfires that ravaged LA earlier this year? Yeah, the ones that destroyed homes, forced evacuations, and left communities in ashes? Yeah. Where was Mayor Bass when the flames were just starting to rage? She was abroad on an overseas vacation, taking a trip while her city literally burned to the ground. And when she finally returned, the response was erratic, embarrassing at the very least, firing the fire chief, facing recall efforts from furious residents, and watching her approval ratings plummet. Can you imagine a leader so out of touch that she's prioritized a foreign jaunt over her own people's safety? Doesn't that sound like someone who's let LA burn, but both figuratively and literally, while Angelinos suffer the consequences? Now let's address the elephant in the room. The riots that tore through Los Angeles this summer. Protests against ICE and DHS turned violent, clashing with law enforcement, undermining our borders, and spitting in the face of President Trump's efforts to secure our nation. Who fueled this chaos? Well, reports point to networks backed by George Soros and his son Alex, billionaires who've poured millions into progressive causes that stoke division, fund anti-police groups, support the burning of Tesla vehicles, and support the kind of unrest we've seen before, from Ferguson to the 2020 riots. But isn't it obvious why? To weaken law and order, to attack our institutions, and to oppose everything President Trump stands for, everything we voted for. And where does Karen Bass fit in all this? She's been backed by Soros's linked influences, praised communist figures in her past, and her handling of these riots only added to her baggage. Why defend the rioters over the brave men and women in uniform, Karen? Why stand against ICE and DHS when they're protecting us from the threats at our borders, Karen? But folks, the worst part, the absolute worst, possibly, is the shadowy connections that go beyond our borders. Has Karen Bass been compromised by foreign influences that hate America? Look at the facts. She raked in over $1 million in campaign donations from bankers with deep ties to the Chinese Communist Party's influence networks. The United Front Work Department, their intelligence arm, and then she appointed those very donors to her transition team. Her office has officials linked to Chinatown power brokers who praise the CCP. And don't forget her history, honoring U.S. Communist Party leaders and ties to groups supporting communist regimes. Is this just a coincidence, or is it more likely a huge red flag for infiltration, treason? As experts have called it, working hand in glove with the deep state, the unelected bureaucrats and globalists who pull strings to undermine our republic from behind the scenes, and these foreign actors, it's a betrayal that puts American interests last. Her desperation is showing, isn't it? Scrambling to defend herself amid scandals of corruption in her office, hush money, bribes, legalized corruption, as some have called it, facing criticism from all sides, even fellow Democrats. Maybe Karen gets kicked out of the Democratic Party. But here's the truth. We all need to hear, folks. So listen to me here. Pay close attention. Stick with me, because it doesn't matter if she's black. It doesn't matter if she's a woman. It doesn't matter. None of this matters, or anything else. Identity politics isn't a shield for failure or wrongdoing. What matters is accountability. Karen Bass needs to step down or be fired immediately. And beyond that, she must be prosecuted ASAP for any laws broken, any compromises that endangered our city and our country. We can't let this slide. Friends, this isn't just about one mayor or one city. It's about fighting back against the forces that want to tear America apart. The CCP, the deep state, the Soros machine, all working to erode our values. but we won't let them, right? With President Trump leading the way, we'll restore law and order, secure our borders, and make our cities safe again, much like DC. But who's with me? Let me know down in the comments.
Last month, the Department of Defense was made aware of an Obama-Biden-era legacy program called Digital Escorts. For nearly a decade, Microsoft has used Chinese coders, remotely supervised by U.S. contractors, to support sensitive DoD cloud systems. The program was designed to comply with contracting rules, but it exposed the department to unacceptable risk. I mean, if you're thinking America first and common sense, this doesn't pass either of those tests. So I initiated an immediate review of this vulnerability, and I want to report our initial findings. So the use of Chinese nationals to service Department of Defense cloud environments, it's over. We've issued a formal letter of concern to Microsoft documenting this breach of trust, and we're requiring a third-party audit of Microsoft's digital escort program, including the code and the submissions by Chinese nationals. This audit will be free of charge for U.S. taxpayers. I'm also tasking the Department of Defense experts with a separate investigation of the digital escort program and the Chinese Microsoft employees that were involved in it. These investigations will help us determine the impact of this digital escort workaround. Did they put anything in the code that we didn't know about? We're going to find out. Additionally, all Department of Defense software vendors will identify and terminate any Chinese involvement in DoD systems. It blows my mind that I'm even saying these things. It's such common sense that we ever allowed it to happen. That's why we're attacking it so hard. We expect vendors doing business with the Department of Defense to put U.S. national security ahead of profit maximization. I'm committed, like the president is, to ensuring that our national security networks are secure. Again, it's America first, and it's common sense. This never should have happened in the first place, but once we found out about it, we've attacked it aggressively from the beginning, and we're going to follow all the way through the tape to make sure that this is addressed. So DoD is working in conjunction as well with our partners in the rest of the federal government to ensure that all U.S. networks are protected. God bless.